protections, especially for religious institutions and religious organizations. I would have personally liked to have seen stronger, more thorough protections for individuals and businesses with religious objections. So I'm going to go back to those communities that I've been working with and see how comfortable they are with the current language.
According to Danny O'Donnell, the bill neither expands nor weakens the carve-out provisions. It's the same provisions that are already in the human rights law.
Yeah, they keep bringing up the human rights law, but at the end of the day, it's the human rights law that's going to be used against religious organizations and individuals with religious objections, should they not want to either lease out facilities or to engage in the same-sex ceremony. So that's a fundamental problem. There are three categories, as we all know. One is religious institutions. That, just like the prior bills, is addressed at least to the fact of not forcing religious institutions of any kind to perform the ceremonies. The other question on that was whether they would be opened up to lawsuits. That's been addressed. The second part is religious organizations themselves that are affiliated with religious institutions. Those seem to have been protected with a specific carve-out, but I believe there may be some openness there that we got to take a look at. And on the third are the individuals and businesses with religious objections, and that has not been addressed at all, and they would fall prey to being opened up to lawsuits, as we've seen in other areas.
So, Senator, would you say you're closer to voting yes or closer to voting no? Or
I'm glad that we have some religious carve-outs and protections in it, and I'm going to reach out and see how comfortable the Catholic Church, other religious organizations are with the current language.
What about the argument that what you were suggesting for private businesses, for like catering halls, or whoever would want the right to refuse same-sex marriage, participating in same-sex marriage, that would be a regression away from traditional or current civil rights law?
I absolutely understand in that point where those who are pushing marriage equality, how strongly they feel on that point. It's just been my belief that you're going to end up with specific instances where you have individuals with religious opposition to taking part in the ceremony who are now going to be opened up to lawsuits themselves. I understand the side from the left that they feel that you could possibly be institutionalizing something that they don't want to, but it's important.
You've mentioned like adoption agencies. This doesn't address any of that either.
Yeah, so on religious institutions, it seems to be fairly thorough, which of course makes sense. But on religious organizations and religious individuals with objections, there still seem to be not only loopholes, but completely open to making those organizations and individuals open to being sued. And that's a real issue. So that's how I read it. I've got to now reach back out.
So your initial feeling toward it then? I know you say it's a step in the right direction.
When the
Is
governor,
it enough of a step?
When the governor came out yesterday and said that there wasn't really a need for the religious carve-outs, that was disappointing. I'm glad to see that there are some protections for religious institutions, but for religious organizations and individuals with objections, it seems like they're still going to be open to lawsuits. So that's a problem.
Is that enough to? You say it's a problem. Is that enough to?
I'm going to reach out,
How long do you
completely
think it
read
might
it.
take before you can make a
I mean,
decision?
we're going to conference this tomorrow, so good.